I'm Dennis Ybarra of Lashon. Rabbi Juan Mejía was ordained in May at the Jewish Theological Seminary. Originally from Colombia, Rabbi Mejía is dedicating his rabbinate to helping descendants of Jews forcibly converted to Catholicism during the Inquisition who are interested in rejoining the Jewish people. Rabbi Mejía joins us for our first B'chol Lashon podcast. Thanks for being with us, Rabbi.
Thank you, Dennis.
Rabbi, could you tell us who are the Bnai Anusim?
The Bnai Anusim are the descendants of Sephardic Jews, Spanish Jews, that were forced to convert during the 15th, 16th century, and who were pretty much spread out throughout the Spanish-speaking world. I mean, there's cases of Bnai Anusim, either individuals or communities, appearing in Latin America, in the Iberian Peninsula, even in places like the Philippines. Wherever the Spanish Empire expanded, there were Jews who were fleeing persecution who ended up there, and eventually their descendants are still around, some of which have kept a modicum of connection to this Jewish identity.
How do you see your work in strengthening emerging communities of Bnai Anusim, both in the American Southwest and in Latin America?
I see my role as a double role. One is, of course, as an educator. There are plenty of rabbis, but there are not a lot of rabbis who can teach in the languages that the Bnai Anusim speak, and that teach from a perspective that is palatable or more accessible to these communities. So I see my role mostly as an educator, bringing Torah and bringing Judaism to communities that would not have access to it otherwise. And also, given that I'm here in the United States and have access to the greater Jewish community here in America, also serve as an activist, a spokesman for the Bnai Anusim community, to advocate for more integration, for more avenues of connection, because my goal, personally, is the reintegration of the Bnai Anusim into the Jewish fold, into the Jewish mainstream, of those, of course, who want to return.
In an article published by JTA in May, you were quoted as saying, "I fight the inquisitorial frame of mind." Can you explain what you mean by that?
In Latin America and in some parts of the Iberian Peninsula, when the Bnai Anusim come back, come knocking at the doors of the synagogues, there is this suspicion. Who are you? What are your motivations? And really, these people, most of them are coming with sincere religious intentions of rejoining the Jewish people or learning more about Judaism. Not all of them want to fully return. Some of them are just curious. They're in the beginning stages of the process, and they are immediately questioned about their motives. And that was what the Inquisition did, right? You were never a really good Christian. There was always something behind closed doors that you were doing that was not right. So I think the Jewish community, in many ways, is behaving, I wouldn't say like the Inquisition. There's nobody torturing us, thank God. But with an inquisitorial frame of mind. There's the suspicion and there's the lack of trust. On the other hand, coming from the Bnai Anusim themselves, they allow themselves in many ways to be mistreated. They want so much to belong to Jewish mainstream. Again, this is more of a case in Latin America than in America. They want to belong so much that they will do whatever is necessary, right? I'll just bring an example. There's a community that the rabbi told them, you need to change your names to something more Jewish. So they changed their names to Goldstein. They changed their names to Ashkenazi names. So, not that there's anything wrong with it, and they're complying. Right? That's the inquisitorial frame of mind. The Inquisition says, jump, you say how high. So in many ways, what I'm trying to do is to convince, to persuade the Jewish community not to be as suspicious, to trust the Bnai Anusim to help them out, and on the other hand, also to convince the Bnai Anusim that they need to come with with a sense of pride and with a sense of their own identity, which needs to be, and this I cannot emphasize enough, it needs to be Jewish. It cannot be a mixed hybrid culture. I emphasize a lot when I teach Torah that our ancestors were Anusim. They were forced. They were coerced. They lived this double identity of Jewish and Christian because they had to. We are Bnai Anusim. We are beyond that. We have given this great blessing of living at a time when we are free to really transcend these limitations and really return to Judaism openly, fully, but also with dignity.
What were some of the highlights of the Sephardic Anusim conference you attended in El Paso, Texas earlier this month?
For me, there were two incredible highlights. One was simply seeing this room full of both Ashkenazi Jews, Sephardic Jews, and Bnai Anusim all talking the same language. The other one was a more private thing, is the fact that 5 rabbis of different denominations, Orthodox, Conservative, and Reform, we sat together and started working out a common, maybe not a common agenda, but at least shared territory. These are 5 rabbis who care deeply about the Bnai Anusim phenomenon and want to help. And so far in the history of this movement, there hasn't been a lot of collaboration. So I think this was in many ways historical, and hopefully good things will come from it.
You recently translated and importantly transliterated for Spanish speakers a traditional Sephardic Siddur for Shabbat evening services into Spanish. Tell us about the need for such a Siddur and what you hope to accomplish by this work. How does it fit in with your website, koltuvsefarad.com, and the resources that you have made available there?
In general, the Siddur, but on a greater scale, the website is all about accessibility. Very early on, when I actually decided to become a rabbi, I realized that the only way I was going to reach the Bnai Anusim was to be online. Bnai Anusim communities, especially in Latin America, but also in the Southwest, are very far apart. The only way in which these communities can really come together, learn Torah, learn Judaism, talk to one another, is online. So my website is open to everyone. Everyone can go and listen to the shiurim or participate in them. And the idea is accessibility.
Okay. Thanks, Rabbi Mejía, for being with us today. You can learn more about Rabbi Mejía and his work by visiting www.koltuvsefarad.com and www.becholashon.org. Join us next month for another podcast interview.